So good morning, Nichols. Everybody watch the Super Bowl? Good game, right? All right. So how many of you have ever watched CNN? Didn't expect that many hands to go up. Researchers say hardly any young people watch the news anymore, so that's a good sign. Any of you know Wolf Blitzer? Yeah? So I ran into Wolf last Thursday before I came up here in the hallway. He said, "You have any Super Bowl plans?" I said, "Well, actually, Wolf, I'm going to be in Buffalo." And it just occurred to me when I said that, I said, "Well, Wolf's from Buffalo." And he was surprised. He's like, well, I'm sure he was thinking, why would you ever want to go to Buffalo in February? So I said, I'm speaking to the school. I said, Nichols. I said, you familiar with it? He said, oh yeah, of course. He said, Nichols is an excellent school. I said, oh, did you go? And he said, no, I was too poor to go to Nichols. But he's very familiar with the school. He thinks very highly of you guys. And who knows, maybe he'll come speak to you one day. If you want to make that happen, I can talk to him. But right now, you just get me. So, I'm a photojournalist, and you might ask, well, what is a photojournalist? And as the name suggests, we simply capture moments through the use of pictures. It could be still photographs, or it could be video. In my case, it's video, mostly. I do stills as well. And I get a lot of questions from young folks like yourself. I'm going to try to leave a little time for questions. If not, I'll be here throughout the day. You can ask me then. But I'm going to address a few questions that I get all the time. So folks usually want to know, how did I get started? Here I am. I'm the kid on the left. Oh, I'm sorry, on the right. This is my first photo lesson. My father got me involved in photography. I think I was around 9 or 10. This is at the zoo in Washington, D.C. I have no idea where these pictures are that I took, but this was my first photo lesson. Skip ahead about 10 years, college freshman year, photography class. This is my first selfie, before selfies were cool. It took a lot more to pull off a selfie back then. No digital cameras, couldn't do this. Had to position the camera on a tripod, set myself timer, get my exposure right, jump in front of the camera before it went off. So, everyone wants to know, who have I met? Did you meet anybody famous? I can't tell you the number of people I've met. But we're going to go through these pretty quickly. I didn't compile these for any particular reason. It's just some people I thought you might be familiar with. And I took most of the pictures. So as you can see, this is Shakira. She was in town maybe about 6-7 years ago for some humanitarian efforts. Kim Kardashian. Kevin Hart. Sofia Vergara. Jennifer Garner. George Clooney. You're welcome, ladies. Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Jack Black at the White House. Kerry Washington. Will Poulter. You guys know him from the Maze Runner, right? Hayden Panettiere. President Clinton and Don Cheadle. This is actually at Georgetown University. This is over 10 years ago, actually. I can't remember exactly why he and President Clinton were together. I think it was, they were working together on some project. I can't tell you what it was. But. Now this picture I didn't actually take. One of my colleagues from Associated Press took this photo. This is, I believe in 2004, 2 popes ago, very popular Pope John Paul II. Usually when we go into an event, they call it a photo op. They usher us in, we take the pictures, then they usher us out. But in this case, when we went in, we got our pictures, and they just let us linger. We were standing around, okay, what do we do now? So the Vatican officials motioned all of us to get in line to meet the Pope. So we put all our cameras down, and we got in line to meet the Pope. I've always been a little curious about this picture because of the expression on Dick Cheney's face. I always found it a little peculiar. Like, what is he thinking? He doesn't look very happy that I'm there. I've always wondered about the expression on the Pope's face as well, but he was kind of old at the time. I think it was about 9 months before he passed away. So he's very ill, so the Pope gets the pass. And of course, President Obama. This is a reception at the White House they held for an annual competition in the White House News Photographers Association. So we all had the pleasure of going to the White House, meeting the president, talking. He congratulates everyone, says how much he loves the press. Not so much, but that's what he says. So people ask me, who am I most impressed with? And you might wonder, well, who are these people? They're just ordinary folks. Just a woman and her son. And out of all the people that I meet, I'm usually impressed with just ordinary folks. Not that I'm not impressed by celebrities or dignitaries. I do admire what they have accomplished. But ordinary people who have done very extraordinary things, that's who I'm most impressed with. I can't tell you the number of great stories that I've heard over the years. It could be soldiers coming back from Iraq, lost a leg, lost arms and legs, disfigured, great attitude. They're not angry, they just want to go back and fight with their friends. Teachers and staff in the line of tornadoes. A couple of years ago, out of Oklahoma, you may have heard about these horrific tornadoes. It hit 2 schools, and in one of the schools, some kids actually died. But when you interview the students and the teachers, it's incredible what they do. When tragedies like that occur, the teachers and staff step up. Same in Newtown, Connecticut. The most difficult story I've ever covered. Even more so than 9/11, because it involves so many kids. Actually, that brings me to another topic. It was covering tragedy and dealing with grief and anger. While in Newtown, we were there for about a week, in force anyway. Media all over the place. And as you can imagine, some residents became irritated that we were there. And I had some anger directed towards me personally, not because of anything I did in particular. It's just I got singled out by a woman. We were setting up to do an interview with some teenagers who were part of a dance studio, and they lost one of their younger members in the shooting, and they wanted to tell us about it. So the woman saw me setting up, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, we're about to interview some kids." He's like, "Really, kids?" She was really angry. I said, "Well, ma'am, they're teenagers. They wanted to talk, but she just was not happy." And what some people don't realize, she felt like we were being exploited. But what some people don't realize is not everyone deals with grief in the same way. Some people want to be left alone. Perfectly understandable. Other people want to talk. She didn't realize, or she didn't want to understand, that these kids wanted to talk. They wanted to tell us, they wanted the world to know about their little friend. And these stories are very difficult. Can't tell you the number of times, I'm not ashamed to say, that I've cried behind my camera. It just happens. You can't listen to these stories without being moved. So this gentleman here is one of those guys I was very impressed with. We did an hour-long series for Anderson Cooper on bullying. And this was a follow-up documentary that CNN did on a documentary by an independent filmmaker. It was, some of you may be familiar with the movies. The movie was simply called Bully. And our documentary was called The Bully Effect. So what we did, we contacted some of the people who were featured in the independent filmmakers film and followed up to see how they were doing. And this is about a 4.5-minute video that I'm gonna play for you. It's just 4.5 minutes of the hour. And we can say a few words afterwards, but here we go.
My name's Kirk, and I'm Ty's dad. On that particular day, this kid that had been picking on him for over 2 years come up and started picking on him again. I guess Ty finally had enough. He retaliated. He was suspended for 3 days. They called his mama, and she went and picked him up, took him home. She told him we'd talk about it when we got home that evening. My wife came home at 2:38 p.m. She found out that he killed himself on our bedroom floor. What these kids here did, guys, man, that's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. That is never an option, ever. A day just loomed and loomed on the horizon, and when it finally came, I knew I had to do something. And so I made a promise to Ty on that day that I was going to stop bullying in this world. I don't break promises. Stand for the Silent was originally started by 68 high school kids. They heard about what happened to Ty. And so me and the kids, we sat and we talked and we decided that we were going to tackle bullying across the world. One day I did 3 school presentations, and on that day there was a young man that killed himself in Oklahoma City. And it broke my heart. Because I just knew that if I had done 4 presentations and that 4th one would have been at his school, I might have made a difference in that young man's decision. We take it personal. Every child that does this is one of ours.
These are some things some kids have done. They're awesome. They've all connected with Ty. They post on his wall, "I wish I could have known you. We would have been best friends." I would give this whole world and everything in it, my own life, if I could put my baby back in his mama's arms for 5 minutes. Just one more time. Just some pictures of Ty, Laura and I. Ty was a good kid. He wasn't an angel, he was our angel. He was always trying to make a good impression on somebody else's day, just make them have a better day. Do whatever he had to make you smile. You know? But he was too small. He was just real little for his age. And that put a big target on him. I think that our boy would be proud of me. I think I feel him with me when I'm talking to these kids. You're not supposed to bury your kids. I know for a fact that there is a reason that we were put on this path, no matter whether we want to be here or not. We're not doing it for Ty. We're doing it for all the other kids out there.
All right. So this guy, very impressive. When he went to speak to students, roughly in your same age group, and you could hear a pin drop. Everyone. He had everyone's attention. And you know how hard that is for folks your age. But he had their attention. Just to go back to Newtown for a minute, one of the things that the teenagers said to us was that they realized how much their teachers and faculty cared about them, but when they saw what their teachers and faculty did in the school to protect those kids, it really hit home with them. And I mean, God forbid something like that should ever happen here, but I know your teachers and staff would do the same thing. And just know that you are very valuable. You may not seem like it all the time. I'm sure some folks get on your nerves, but folks in your age group are very valuable. Yeah, I want to keep this time limit. So, conflict zones. I've had the opportunity to find myself in some fairly dangerous areas. This is in Iraq, in the town of Tikrit. This is actually Saddam Hussein's hometown. This was his main palace in his hometown. By then, of course, he wasn't in there then, but the military had taken it over and renamed it Iron Horse. I think this is around, it's early 2000s, maybe 2002, 2003. I was there with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and we actually got stranded there. My reporter thought that it would be a great idea to go outside and get a shot of the chairman as he exited the building, because it's a pretty shot. You can see columns and whatnot there. So we went outside. We waited, and we waited, we waited. Finally, about 20 minutes went by, so we went back inside and said, when's the chairman coming out? And they said, oh, he's gone. He was like, what? He left us? I said, yeah. So little did we know, just because he went in that way, he didn't come out that way for security reasons. In case someone was eyeballing him and wanted to take a shot at him, you know, the security suggested that he leave in a different way. So we found ourselves stranded in Tikrit for about 4 hours. And finally, just before dark, the military was able to send a chopper back to get us. And it was about a half hour to a 40-minute flight from Tikrit to Baghdad. And when we landed, we were greeted by a very angry officer, because apparently it was extremely dangerous for us to fly from Tikrit to Baghdad. And as far as he was concerned, we put his people in danger. And you know, it was an honest mistake, but he wasn't hearing any of it. I mean, I can't repeat a word he said to us, but he was not having anything we said. He was directing it towards my reporter. He didn't really say anything to me, but he was so angry, you know, I just kind of inched away from my reporter, like I'm not with him. So here is in Kabul, in Afghanistan, and this building in the back of us, from what I understand, used to be the king's palace when Afghanistan had a king. Supposedly it was a very beautiful building, but as you can see here, it has suffered from decades of war, and I think to this day it's still uninhabited. It probably looks worse than it does right now. This is another one of Saddam Hussein's palaces in Baghdad. It's just a quick photo opportunity that me and some of my colleagues had to sit on this very, very tacky couch. You'd be surprised at the extravagance of some of these palaces on the outside, but when you get on the inside, actually some of the craftsmanship is kind of shoddy. So we just thought it was funny, and we just took a picture. Here's Sudan. I don't know if some of you recall the violence that was going on there some years ago between the North and the South. This is a trip with former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. It's kind of bizarre being dropped down in the middle of a refugee camp in the middle of a desert and setting up and doing our TV thing. You can see all the local people kind of crowded around and watching what we were doing, but you know, you have to do what you have to do. It's just still kind of bizarre. being dropped in like that and leaving after a few hours. The secretary was there to just kind of get a feel for what was going on and to talk to folks about what kind of violence they were subjected to. This is Kiev, about a year ago. Some horrible things went on there. This is an aerial shot from our hotel. The charred building, kind of upper middle, is was kind of a headquarters for many of the protesters, and someone set it on fire. A lot of people lost their lives there. I'm going to actually show you another video shot by one of my colleagues in just a second. It'll tell you a little bit more about what went on there. So, telling pictures with stories, or telling stories with pictures. Still photographs, a little bit different from video. Most still photographs need a caption to really give you a sense of the story. Some of them speak more on their own, but most need a caption for you to really appreciate what the story is. This is a shot of Michelle Obama, obviously, speaking to some students at Oxford University. Shooting video, it's kind of like writing an essay. You have a beginning, kind of a scene setter to establish where you are, what the story is about. You have a middle, provides details, and then you have an ending with a conclusion. This is a story shot by one of my colleagues in Kiev, and I'll just let this play and we can talk a bit about it.
Kiev's Independence Square, site of so much fighting, is now a shrine to the dead and a symbol to the living. Hundreds of protesters still stay here, vowing they'll not leave until they see the change they so recently fought for. They sing and sleep in tents, trying to stay warm against the cold winter air. There's wood for fire, hot soup cooked in cauldrons, food is given out for free. Vladimir Putin obviously is not popular here. No one believes the claims he's making about his actions in Crimea.
When Russia says that Russian-speaking people in Crimea are under attack, they're under threat, you say...
It's not true. It's not true all over Ukraine, so it's unfair. So it's...
Do you worry about what's happening?
Yeah, of course, because I think they're trying to divide Ukraine like to east and west.
The new government in Kiev has called up military reservists. Even those not of military age will tell you they're ready to fight.
He said, my friend said that I'm ready to give a bribe for military commission. Just take me to army. I want to fight for my country. 55 years.
You want to fight?
Behind the bravado, the bravery and pride, there's also so much sadness. The photos of those who died in this square, a silent, sober reminder of the blood that's been spilled. Young and old, fathers and sons, these are the faces of the dead. The living come here to remember, to say prayers, light candles, lay flowers. They walk the streets where blood was shed.
You can still find the remnants of the fight that took place here everywhere in the square. This is a stretcher. It was used to carry the wounded or the dead. And over here, makeshift weapons, mostly defensive. These are shields that were used against snipers. This is made out of wood. Certainly wouldn't stop a bullet. With handmade handles. Sometimes place flowers here. It's sort of a memorial. And you see this a lot too as well. These are cobblestones which had been dug up from the street, which were hurled by protesters against police.
Everything has been left as it was. It's all still here, still ready to be used once again.
The square is still fortified with barricades, layers of them. There's 3 layers here of tires that have been laid out. There's also these to try to stop vehicles from coming down. Here are the more cobblestones that were used as weapons, and you still find weapons all around. They're saving everything. These are bottles, beer bottles that were used for Molotov cocktails that have wires tied around the top to make it easier to throw them and be filled with gasoline. You see a gasoline canister over here, just boxes of cases of beer bottles over here. And this is one of the most impressive barricades. It's just made with every object they could find: tires, metal, fencing, sheetrock, anything they could find. They just piled up beneath this bridge to try to stop riot police from coming in and entering the square.
For now, the fighting in Kiev is over. All eyes are on Crimea. In Independence Square, however, the protesters insist they'll keep up their defenses in case the new government fails them, as they say the old one just did. Anderson Cooper, CNN, Kiev.
Шампанского. А на нас шампанского. Из Москвы в Нагасаки. Из Нью-Йорка.
Okay, so here's our Anderson Cooper team standing in front of one of those barricades. And the guy in the middle in the green coat, he may look harmless, but he's actually our security. He is a ex-special forces guy. CNN contracts with companies like that to provide some protection when we go into dangerous areas. And he's holding one of the shields that the people were using to try to protect themselves. What he told us was that the snipers were actually about 2 city blocks away up on a roof, just randomly shooting people. And over 100 people were killed right in this location. And he was telling us that in Ukraine, they're not quite as familiar with gun culture as we are here. So they had, I mean, that's a stainless steel shield there. But when you're dealing with high-powered rifles, that provides no protection at all. So they didn't know that really. So they were just getting plucked off. I think that case is still under investigation as to who exactly did it, but I don't think they've caught him yet. So, going back to telling stories with pictures. This is a picture, obviously, of the president being sworn in, or president-elect being sworn in 2008. Now, this is such an iconic picture that you really don't need much of a caption for this. I mean, everyone knows this regardless of what president it is. When they hold that hand up like that, you know he's being sworn in. Or maybe she one day. Here's another photo that kind of carries its own banner. It's a banner welcoming President Barack Obama to Ireland. He actually has family roots there. We took a helicopter ride, short helicopter ride to a small town where they traced his family on his mother's side. The entire town came out to see him. It was probably only a few hundred people, but everyone came out. He went to a bar, had a beer. They totally loved him there. Here's a shot of my first trip to Afghanistan. I just saw a soldier standing there, and it was the first time I've noticed that they had the name in the local language embroidered on their uniforms. I think this is probably an effort just to reach out and establish communication and contact with the local population. You can really glean a lot just from this simple photograph. You know it's an American soldier. You know he's probably in the Middle East. Now, this photo definitely needs a caption. It may look a little interesting, but this is just a simple rose sticking out of a hole in a metal pole. But this is in Kiev, in the area where I was speaking to you about. That hole was made by one of the sniper rounds. And someone had come by and put a rose inside one of those sniper holes just to make a statement. So when you know that, now the picture becomes a bit more interesting. So there's a popular saying amongst photographers: the best camera is the one you have with you, because there's nothing more frustrating as a photographer seeing a shot and not having a camera. So people get hung up on cameras, but it's really not just about the camera. This woman is in Darfur. She's one of the refugees. And as we were kind of trampling through their refugee camp, I stopped and noticed her sitting in a doorway of a thatched hut. And thought the look on her face, her eyes, was just very interesting. It was a mob of us going by, but as you can see, she looks like she doesn't care that we're there at all. Forbidden City, Beijing. By the way, all these pictures that I'm currently showing you were shot with just a portable, very portable point-and-shoot camera or an iPhone, just to demonstrate that it's not just about the camera. This is a bit of street photography. This is 2004 Times Square, New York City. I just struck up a conversation with this young lady on the street and snapped her picture as she was talking to me. She didn't know that I took the picture. I just kind of snuck one in, but I did show it to her afterwards, and she approved. Vatican City. This is a very popular stairwell. You'll see this a lot. We were walking around. I just stuck my head over the railing and saw how the staircase spiraled, and thought it was an interesting picture. Saudi Arabia. This is during the annual pilgrimage that Muslims make to Mecca every year. The Saudi government actually took us up in a helicopter and allowed us to take some shots. I actually had a big video camera and my little pocket-sized still camera. So I kind of hung off the side. Well, I had some security. I hung off the side and just snapped this picture. And all those little dots you see are people. It does get very much more crowded than this, but during prayer times. So this is probably actually between prayer times. There's over 2 million people there. It's quite a spectacle. This is just a simple shot in Union Station, train station in Washington, D.C. iPhone. This executive office building, you can tell I'm a fan of stairwells. It's another iPhone picture. So, I've showed you some gloomy videos. This one is a little bit more lighthearted. I do a lot of live television. And the majority of times, everything goes without incident. But occasionally, there are incidents. So I titled this "Going Live: What Could Possibly Go Wrong?" And I am doing the camera. So this is one of our major snowstorms in DC. What we call a major snowstorm. You know, they call it Snowmageddon or Snowpocalypse or whatever name they called it back then. But this was severe for us. I know you guys call it Tuesday here, but it was a major deal for us. So I'll let this go.
First of all, you have some packed snow, like you see the stuff that I'm walking on, and then as you get over towards this area, you see it change a little bit, where it's not really snow, but rather it is some black ice, which at times can be a very slippery thing, let me tell you, as a photojournalist can tell you.
Fall?
Certainly some slippery times. He's okay. Are you okay? Are you okay, man?
Is he okay?
That's Tony. It's Tony, you're up. Is he okay? He's okay, but even more importantly, he looks good. But that's a good testament to what's been happening in here. I mean, people will slip and fall. You have to be careful out there on the roadways, tell you the truth.
Oh my goodness. Is he okay?
Very quickly, a couple things. He's fine, he's smiling, and he's kind of laughing too, which is a good sign. Very quickly, a couple things to share with you. Trust me. America, trust me, Tony's fine. Tony's here is that the roadways, although they look good in some places, you're still going to have a lot of ice that you can slip, and of course, your car could have some issues with. In terms of metro travel, in terms of the railways, things are fine underground, but the above ground stuff is going to be shut off, but even the stuff that's going to be underground is still serviceable every 30 minutes, so you're going to have a little bit of a wait there. Airports are going to give you some information about that, and of course, the forecast, including more snow and possibly more ice to slip on. You okay, Chief? He's smiling.
So, one of my editors at CNN.com